Lisa, welcome to Women Leading Audaciously. We're talking today about vitality. And I'd love to have you tell us a little bit more about your story, what you do, and how you got there.
Thank you so much for having me. So my story starts out kind of boring. I feel like I've been in the public relations industry since I graduated from college, which is unlike most people that graduated from PR. They go into sales, and I stuck it out in PR. And I started to get pretty bored after about 10 or 15 years of owning an agency, because in public relations, everything was the same mechanics. You pitch the journalist was the gatekeeper, everyone's pitching the same journalist, and then the journalist decides whether or not your story gets featured, you get quoted. And then all of a sudden, Google came along, and search engines and digital and social media and Facebook, and I had this, kind of aha moment when I started going and attending some of these search engine strategy conferences as a PR professional. I was the only female. There was a male-dominated tech industry. I just wanted to learn everything, and I felt like I got my MBA going to this conference, because I felt like, wow, public relations is going to be reinvented, re-energized, all this opportunity. We have such a huge influence over search and social and marketing more than ever before. And fast forward to today, most PR professionals are still stuck in the PR box. They don't really get how much they can influence search and social. And it's been a great ride. I've been an entrepreneur, agency owner for 20 years, and super energized, but it's been a lot of educating, and a lot of educating my clients, educating through books, educating my staff. And so this year, I was having the best year ever, profit-wise, new business-wise. And I just got super burned out, super frustrated. Clients became toxic, more toxic than ever. Expectations became super unrealistic. I have 3 kids. One of them was a high school senior when the pandemic hit. She got, taken down with depression and anxiety.
I'm sorry.
And
It's big.
yeah, and I just kind of got to a point where something had to give, and I had a couple passion projects that were started that I wasn't able to do, and I just took a step back and said, you know what, I can't resign from being a mom. That's where I really need to put my energy.
Yeah.
I had started this little passion project called Female Disruptors that was creating my own publication, that I could be my own editor and I could be my own gatekeeper, and be able to feature women that are disrupting in their field. And I just decided, like, look, I'm gonna do what's connecting me with the most joy, and that is this passion project, that my kids, and that's possibly taking my expertise and my PR secrets and creating a course and going one-to-one and one-to-many instead of one-to-one, and kind of taking control over my time that I felt had been hijacked.
Wow.
So yeah, so big changes this year.
Yeah, for you and for many. I love it. That's a long time in PR. And by the way, I don't think there's anything kind of boring about PR. I don't know why. Maybe I had that delusion, but PR just seems like just so much fun. And honestly, people are consuming media in that way, in terms of how people are. It's just fascinating to see what's happened with influencers and how advertising has shifted and consolidated itself and moved away from TV. I mean, it's just fascinating, what is happening in the modern day with PR.
That is true. It's definitely sexier, more exciting, more opportunity. Like, there has never been more opportunity for small businesses, every
Yeah.
size business, than today's landscape of media. Like, it's really unbelievable.
And I feel like the game keeps changing too. I mean, even what was happening with Google ads, 3 years ago is totally different than what's happening today. And Facebook ads, the same thing. So it's just constantly reinventing itself. And you're right, we have more opportunity today than ever. And it kind of troubles me sometimes, because very qualified people, if they're not in the PR game, are not actually famous, successful, and sometimes celebrity doctors and people in my industry are not as qualified as they should be to have the level of influence that they have. So it's like this is like the missing link for so many people who have important information to get out to the masses at this time, because it's a critical time, I believe, on the planet for this what we're moving into as a culture and as humanity, really.
It's true. And I just actually did a webinar that was especially for entrepreneurs. And one of the things I touched on with entrepreneurs is this thing called imposter syndrome, or that maybe
Right.
you're not worth the media coverage. Are you really the expert when you really are? And I feel like a lot of times, like
Mm.
the people that have the most qualifications don't really see themselves like that. So they're,
Right.
they're like, well, why would somebody want to talk to me? And then there's the ones that feel like, oh, I'm the smartest and I'm the one that everybody needs to talk to. And they're really the ones that have like this big ego, but maybe less of the certifications or qualifications.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's crazy. When you said the word, and when I read the words, like when we decided to do the podcast together, I'm like, female disruptor. And it was like, part of me is like, yes, I'm a female disruptor. And another part of me is like, God, I wouldn't call it an imposter syndrome, but something like in me, like, am I really a female disruptor? And I know that a lot of my thinking around solutions for health and for happiness are disruptive, the way I envision it, and how I've consolidated the thought leadership that I've had for the last, almost 30 years now. And but then I like, what is a female disruptor exactly?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what you just described as yourself, that, I would describe, any women that are, breaking the rules and going out of the box and getting out of the way that it's been the same old, and making up new rules and new ways of thinking and new ideologies and new, Uber is, a disruptive,
Yes, it is.
disrupted, and so that's things like that are happening, on a, maybe like a huge brand way, but also females that are influencing the disruption. And it could be moms, that are, learning to do things different and, say no to certain things that, every
Don't
other generation
resonate.
before,
Yeah.
yeah, said yes. And, they're kind of just making up their own rules. So,
Then I'm
and there's
definitely a
just,
disruptor because
yeah,
I'm
you
not
are.
a
You
rule
definitely are.
follower
You definitely
at
are.
all.
Yeah. And I mean, I would consider myself a disruptor because I said, look, I'm going to do PR different and I'm going to start. I thought it was going to be, everybody was going to be thinking the same way, but not everybody still is.
Isn't
So,
that the
you
funniest
know,
thing? Like we don't even
yeah.
realize we're disrupting because it's so a part of the air we breathe and the lens we're looking through that we can't even see it in a way.
And if I had to name disruptors that we all know, Madonna, Suzanne Summers, Lady
Yeah,
Gaga,
right.
Britney Spears, Paris
Hmm.
Hilton, I mean,
Right.
they really, in some way, shape, or form, kind of said, no, I'm going to do this way.
Yeah, Alice
And
Waters. Yeah.
yeah, and like, are influencing that, whatever that thing is that
Joan of
they're
Arc.
disrupting.
Mary Magdalene. Yeah, no, it's
uh,
in its time. I think women are also being acknowledged and honored as opposed to being demonized. Although some are still being demonized, but I think that it's time, and I think there's a readiness now also for and space for females to disrupt and rise.
yeah, and I totally agree. Unfortunately, the pandemic was a huge setback for many women,
Oh my
and
gosh,
many,
yeah,
it's
full-time chef, tutor, housekeeper, business
right.
owner. I mean, it's exhausting, and I think that's why we're seeing, especially right now, the fatigue of it all,
Mhm.
and then women trying to kind of pick up the pieces, and the landscape does not look the same as it did pre-COVID. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I went to a couple in-person conferences that both of them, I was shocked at the number of women that were not there, and
Yeah.
felt really, really, really just kind of almost invisible in some ways, because the less women, um it's like the guys that were there didn't really notice as much as I did, because they're all just like, they haven't seen each other in forever, and it's kind of like not as noticeable. So
Right.
we've really got a lot of work to do.
Well, we do, and I think you said it early on, and I had a similar thing. So, when our kids are not well, like my daughter went through a period of depression and anxiety, and it's you really don't have the space to create. You don't have the space to do what you want to do, or you have to reevaluate what you're doing to make space for that, and
Yeah.
it's almost as if our health would have been compromised, right? Because and it's such a difficult position. I don't know how old was it, your daughter or son that was in this predicament?
My daughter, she's 19 now, so she was 17 when the pandemic hit.
Yeah, and my daughter was a little younger when it hit, but I just she's moved through it, which is great. But when it happens, it's like I just felt so helpless.
Yeah.
And on the one side, like dropping my career and just focusing on that would have been the wrong thing to do. And at the same time, I couldn't focus too much on my career either because I had to be so present, even though I was being shut out. It's like a
Yeah.
different kind of presence. Like you have to be like intuitively present in order
Yeah.
for was a really difficult space to navigate. So I just want to commend you for the shift that you made, and so beautiful how it all worked out, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you. It wasn't easy. And, at the beginning of this year, say around February, I just started feeling like kind of like crumbling, and I just didn't know what was wrong with me. And, I had never really, I don't want to say I had suicidal thoughts, but this is like the breaking point was when one of my clients, their website was down, and we had got the username and password a few weeks before just to do some like nothing changes. And I'm like, oh my God, like what if it's our fault that the website is down? And I would
Mm,
just like had this glimpse of like what a suicidal thought might feel like,
yeah.
and I was just like, okay, Lisa, there's something definitely wrong with you. So that was like a big aha moment where I had to reevaluate like how much stress I was under and how much pressure that I was getting from all these different directions. So I ended
Wow.
up going to Canyon Ranch for 2 weeks, and
Nice.
somebody had recommended, my therapist, I think, had recommended it. And that was extremely helpful. And it wasn't just like Canyon Ranch. It's just like going somewhere and just going off the grid and like taking yourself apart and then putting back the pieces that you want.
Yeah, and I do want to mention here because I've worked with thousands of people over the last, almost 30 years in restoring their health and vitality. And going to a place, even if it's in your own home, if you can recreate your patterns inside of your own home, not only like
Mhm.
physically, but also mentally and emotionally and spiritually, but going to just nourishing yourself with whole foods, like you would get at Canyon
Mhm.
Ranch or some other
Yeah.
places like that, being connected with nature. So really to
Yeah.
what's true, like a different kind of internet, the mycelium internet,
Yeah. It's true.
for
Yeah.
example. Um, Having meals in groups or have different conversations that are about life and meaning and purpose, which may or may not happen at Canyon Ranch, I don't know. But community gathering around mealtime is something that, gosh, it just seems like another world that exists in. But that's been a huge pillar in most communities, is gathering together to share meals. So I just think those pillars of what you went through in those 2 weeks, probably contributed. And I just want to highlight it for anyone who's listening who feels like they need to get some space, from their lives so they can see things more clearly and gain some perspective. Nourishing your body, taking time out away, being in nature, like these are really important pillars to reboot yourself, to realign yourself, to revitalize yourself.
Yes, totally. And when I went there, they had told me, "Oh, it's great that you're going by yourself." My husband ended up meeting me there after about 7 days.
Mm,
And I thought, when I'm there by myself, I really don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to be by myself and,
mm.
kind of be in this like, just like, I don't know, cocoon.
Reflective
It
time.
was,
Yeah.
it was a cocoon, but
Mm.
I ended up really meeting some amazing people and having unbelievable conversations because the cool thing about it is that everybody's there for the same purpose. Like you're trying to help yourself, you're there for health reasons. You're not there to, you know, stay at the bar every night until 2 a.m. There's actually no
Right.
bar
You're
there,
like in the sauna, or like you're in the
Yeah.
jacuzzi or the mineral bath or the
Yeah.
cold plunge, like sweating it out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it was nice to have the conversations that were with people that were like-minded and kind of in a similar state of therapy
Healing.
and
Yeah.
reset and healing. Yeah.
Oh, so beautiful. So, how do you manage it all? Like, how do you find the balance, especially when your children were younger? What was something that you use? Some people love to use their calendar. Other people, it's more intuitive, but like, what did you use or what do you use to kind of balance it for yourself?
Well, yeah, yoga has always been a big part of my life since my 20s. And when I
Hmm.
first started yoga, that was really, I did it purely for athletic, physical reasons. Like I didn't really realize how much it was doing. It was really helping me mentally. And, now looking
Yeah.
back, I see that it really was an integral part of like, the however many times I did it a week, like it helped me mentally reset. It's meditative movement. And I
Mm.
never looked at it like that. And then, over the past 10 years, I started really tuning into the meditative part of it and the quietness. And I ended up getting my yoga certification really just for personal development reasons. And I was writing a book called Digital Detox Secrets, and I wanted just to have that be kind of like research and development. I didn't really get the certification to teach. I ended up teaching a little bit here part-time, but and it's funny with meditation, like I always thought when people were coming into the class after my yoga class, it was a meditation class. And I thought, I mean, how, like, what a waste of time. Like, they're just going to sit in a room and do nothing. Like, I looked at them like they were crazy. Like, somebody needed to go have a talk with them. Like, they're going to drive to sit and do nothing. Like, there's no purpose, And
Right.
then when I started realizing the value of meditation, I would take a plane to go to a
I
meditation,
know, just to get that
sort of like
oneness, that samadhi.
workshop.
Oh,
It's so
yeah.
funny.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
when
it
I
took
was
a
at
while.
Canyon Ranch,
Mm.
yeah, when I was at Canyon Ranch, I thought, oh, I'm going to do, continue to do yoga. And then I thought, let me just like get out of my box and do something that I've never done before. So one of my one-on-ones I did was Qigong, and I'd never done Qigong.
Powerful.
And I became obsessed with it. And so now today, that's really my secret sauce is I do
Nice.
about 10 minutes in the morning and I do about 10 minutes at night. And it's helped my sleep, it's helped my energy, it's helped my attitude, it's helped my just structure, my being. It's really like a big magic wand that I'm happy I
Oh,
figured out.
I love that. So for those of us listening, did you hear that? Just 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes in the evening can make all the difference in the world. I think a lot of the people in my community are like really bogged down with like, oh, I got to do all this stuff for self-care and it has to take hours. And no, it doesn't. But you have to find out the thing that's going to make the biggest difference for you. Like me too. I mean, yoga for me has been like the end all be all. It's everything I've become and who I'm becoming. Mostly, I don't headline with that either. It's like that's just, but that is it. That is true. And I recently got introduced to Qigong. My current life partner, boyfriend, is really into it. He's been teaching me, and I'm just like, whoa, because
Yeah,
it's like the
we
movement, and I can feel the energy. It's like it's just profound.
it's so cool. Like when you do this, like
Yeah,
rubbing your hands together
yeah,
and just like the knocking on your chest and stuff.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so, yeah, it's so like,
yeah.
I don't know, like why didn't anybody share this with me and why is it more popular? Like, why aren't there Qigong studios? I don't understand.
I think there are. I think there are. It was fascinating to see why things trend. Going back to the PR conversation, like why is something trending and the other thing isn't? And there are a lot of people who are listening who are have small and mid-sized businesses, and PR seems like the furthest thing. They're just trying to like, what do I do? Do I do IGTV? Do I do YouTube? Do I blog? Do I do Facebook ads? Like it's kind of overwhelming. And the reality is that PR is by far one of the most important things that you can do. So tell us about your program. You have a program that's going to help people, entrepreneurs, get PR and have them be able to be empowered to do it on their own, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I wrapped all my 20 years of my PR secrets into this course. And, it really, it's perfect for entrepreneurs, coaches, authors, small business owners, or PR professionals that just want to level up their game. If they maybe have a background in PR, but they want to know some of these tips and tricks, they can learn it. So it's called Modern PR Secrets, and you can find out about it at buyerpr.com. And it really walks you through using public relations through social media, using public relations to influence Google, optimizing your content just to get more exposure, even if it's just through your social media content. It takes you through how to pitch an editor, how to figure out who to pitch for your story, how to write a pitch letter, how, the kind of the crafting of press releases. And it also, what I'd love to talk about is that you don't have to go through these journalists as the gatekeeper. It's still part of the process. It's still definitely something to do, but you can do what you're doing. You can host, you can have your own podcast, you can use your own media to be your own brand journalist and become the expert. And that combined with some of the traditional PR processes and ways that are still valid, but combining the power of hosting your own show, having your own YouTube channel, having your own, weekly Facebook Live or a LinkedIn Live, depending on where your audience is. I mean, people are tuning in to, you don't have to be, like a host of the Today Show to be heard and to be considered an expert. You can have
Yeah, right.
your own show. And, it's the power of the media. And when you do have your own show, what my course also teaches is how to optimize to make sure that you're using the right keywords and hashtags so that you're getting the most exposure. And the playing fields are now leveled out. Like, you can compete against the Today Show. You can, attract guests that your audience is going to want to hear about. And that, I like to use the example of The Secret, the law of attraction, like attracts like. So the more, you put out there, the more you're going to get back
I love
that
it.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the media coverage attracts more media coverage. So that momentum starts, and you can do it yourself. You don't have to hire a PR agency. You can dedicate 3 to 5 hours a week, consistent. And I also like to remind of having the right mindset for public relations, that public relations isn't like an advertising campaign that you say, okay, I'm going to spend $500. It's going to start on this day and it's going to end on this day. This is what the artwork's going to look like. This is what the headline
Yeah.
is going to say. So with PR, it's something that you're putting out. It's like a sales process. It's earned media, and earned media is considered 8 times more credible than advertising.
Wow,
So
that's right. Yeah.
you're not going to get the social proof as seen in Vogue or as seen in Forbes from a Facebook ad. Nobody puts
Right.
as seen in Facebook, on their website. They don't, it's not like a bragging point, but you
Mm.
can't take away, like, when you're featured or quoted in a media outlet, even if it's an industry local outlet, it's still considered media coverage and social
Absolutely.
proof.
Yeah. And I think that,
Yeah.
especially for the people listening, a lot of us are in the health industry.
Mhm.
And in order to help people genuinely, they need to trust you.
Mhm.
And those endorsements that you're referring to are essential. If we don't have people's
Yes.
trust, we can't. With the innovative thinking that I'm involved in, that people who are engaged with my work are involved in, we're talking about things that are very natural and cutting edge, but they're new enough and different enough from the mainstream that we have to, encourage our credibility so that people can, listen to us with the open ear that we need for them to invite these solutions. Because you can regain your vitality. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Your body is resilient. And the time is now for us to be focusing on our immune systems. But people just don't take responsibility for their choices. They don't realize the impact their choices are making, both the food that they're eating, the thoughts that they're thinking, and the things that they're doing and how they're doing them.
It's so true. Yes. And I mean, if that's your area of expertise and you're the voice and you're the expert, they're going to listen to somebody. So you might as well be the one that they're listening to.
Right. I know. I love it. It's so great. So how can people find out more about this program that you're offering?
So it's buyerpr.com. And I don't know if you want to put the link in the show notes,
Yeah,
or
we
if that's
will,
something that
for
you
sure.
do.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other passion project that I wanted to just share is Female Disruptors. So that's the magazine that I started a couple of years ago that I kind of like would dream about working on when I was being pulled and dragged in a million directions with my PR clients. But Female Disruptors, we're having the first virtual summit in January, and you can go to femaledisruptors.com and learn about from other female disruptors of all generations. So Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, Gen Y, and boomers are all going to share their wisdom and their talent so that we can all learn from each other.
I love that.
Mhm.
That's great. So people can sign up to be a spectator.
Yep, they can
Okay.
attend for free, or there's a VIP package. So whichever one you want to do, you can find it at femaledisruptors.com.
That's fantastic. That's so exciting. Yeah, there's lots
Yeah.
of women who who I think, don't necessarily believe that they're disruptors. I think that's important to remember, our unique imprint. And right now, especially this generation, our kids, they're thinking differently, and
Mhm,
they're thinking in ways that sometimes I struggle to even understand. I'm like,
mhm.
oh, but the way they're challenging the status quo is like so exciting. I'm so excited for our future, this
Yes,
generation. I mean,
it's exciting. We can learn a lot from them.
yes. Yes. So I'm so glad you're including that younger generation. I remember I spoke at the UN for Eating for Peace. And it was a youth summit. And the kids, I thought, what are we doing up here as adults? I mean, these kids should be running the show. I mean, they have the
Mhm.
best ideas. I mean, the way they were engaging in the audience, and I'm just, yeah, it's just their BS radars are so off the charts. I mean, they cannot be fooled, not for a second.
Yeah, so true. It's so true.
And even these my daughter's friends who are like really hardcore AOC devotees, like the other day they were like, AOC said something just didn't add up, and I'm like, oh wow, interesting. Like, they actually are questioning even the people that they respect. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate the level of independent thinking that I'm observing. It's pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, my daughter's the same way. Like I'll bring up something and she's like, "Well, I have a few opinions about that. I don't know if you want to hear about it." I'm like, "Okay,
At least she asked for
yes, I
permission.
do." Yeah.
I'm like, don't ever ask my daughter what she thinks, because she will give it to you straight, and you may not want to unhear what you heard.
Yeah.
Or you just may.
Yeah, yeah, that's so funny.
Truth tellers. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. And
Thank you.
yeah, and I'm just really inspired by your story. As moms, our kids come first,
Yeah,
and they instigate, as they did for you and for me, the changes that actually need to happen, which is just such a miracle.
yeah, and the struggle is real. Being a parent today is not easy. Where there's no roadmap like there used to be. We're in uncharted territories.
It's true. And I think it's also because it was just our grandmother's generation where it was taboo to work.
Yeah,
And my mother worked, on and off. But I think that we're really this first generation where all the demands are there. And heck, we actually we don't mind it, right? We want to do it all. We want to have it all, but
yeah,
it's still very, very new. And there's no guidebook for that. How to be a
right.
mom, how to be a
Yeah,
wife, how to be an entrepreneur, and also take care of ourselves. And oftentimes it leads to divorce, burnout, or absentee parenting.
yeah,
And that is not okay. That's the
yeah,
beginning of the end for like the structure of, the future generations. It's a very
yeah.
challenging time in this way.
Yeah, and my husband, who's about 10 years older, he's like, Lisa, you don't have to work. Like, don't worry about working so hard. Why are you working so hard? And, that's a fortunate situation to be in, but like, that's not who I am. Like, I want to work and I want to have my independent identity and my independent, money that I'm bringing in. And I want to teach that to our kids moving forward that, you don't, I don't know, there's pros and cons to it.
There
you
is,
know,
but I think that I noticed children of entrepreneurs and working parents really think differently than children who don't have that. And I'm
yeah.
not saying one is better or one is worse. I'm just noticing the way these kids who have parents who are working or even entrepreneurs, the way they think of the world and the way they see how the world works is just really different.
Mhm.
And also what they see as possible is really different. So I think there's value to it, but it's not always easy, because you can't always be there, when they want you to be, which, can cause friction.
Definitely,
Yeah. But
definitely.
anyway, to be continued. Thanks again.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.